Hi, everybody. Hello, good day. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, I would love for you to say something in the chat box. Okay, thank you, Oladimeji. Good day. And thank you for your responses. Okay, I know that the general session is still happening, but because we already scheduled this to happen at this time, we're going to go ahead and start this breakout room. And especially because this is solely for people interested in or already in the engineering field, right? I think first off, I need to introduce myself. My name is Amara Onyeji, and I'm a program manager at Old School Africa, program manager for the School of Engineering. Let me be more specific. And so I think maybe that's why um, it was it was found best for me to host this session since a lot of us here are interested in going into the engineering field or already part of the engineering field, right? And we also indicated um, interest in listening to our speaker for today, which is Gbolade Ogunfowote. I know Gbolade, I've never pronounced your surname, and I hope, and I really hope that I pronounced it correctly. Okay. You're going to let me know when okay, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I said you modded it, but it's fine.
Are you serious? Please let me know what the correct thing is.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's Ogunfowote.
Ogunfowote. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Oladimiji. Yes, I'm glad to see you. Right? I don't know where you may be probably one of the onboarding sessions, but I'm really glad to be here to host this session with you. So before we go ahead, of course, we know what this breakout room is going to be about, which is jumpstarting your development career with WordPress and other CMS. And Bolade, let me just go ahead and do like a brief introduction of who Gbolade is. And if he wants to let us know more about him, I would really be grateful for that. But after the introduction, I would hand over to Gbolade and he would go ahead and take us on this session. So Gbolade is a detail-oriented WordPress developer and web publisher with more than 8 years of hands-on experience in building, publishing, optimizing, and managing high-performing websites across WordPress and Shopify ecosystems. He has a background in CMS development, custom WordPress development, Shopify, technical SEO, and conversion focused page building. So obviously you can tell that Gbolade is skilled in various aspects, right? So I want to just hand over the mic to Gbolade and he's going to take it up from here. Gbolade, you can go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone see me? Okay, I don't think I can see myself, but everyone can see me fine, right? Okay, good. Great. So my name is Gbolade Ogunfowote. Give me a second. Let me share my screen. Okay. Kindly let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, yes. So, okay, first I'm going to start with an introduction of myself. I think Amara has done it justice. I have been using WordPress and a lot of other CMSs, Shopify, Joomla, Drupal, a host of them. I've been using them for about 10 years now. I've had a long career in tech and I've done a lot of things. I've done custom development using JavaScript and Go. I've been a bit of a backend dev for a while, done design. I've done a lot of stuff. But one of the skills I have that is very close to my heart is WordPress and basically building with CMSs. And I know we've been hearing a lot this evening about the new emerging technologies, AI this, AI that, and here comes along this guy who is talking about the technology that was developed 20 something years ago. And I'm actually surprised I had this many participants. I'm like, I heard a lot of people say, oh, WordPress, that old thing. People still use WordPress, but just stay with me. Stay with me on this journey, and I would walk you through how WordPress is very critical for anyone who is looking to start a career in tech. So, let's talk about the reality of being a new developer, right? As someone who has mentored a lot of people in tech, one of the things that I get asked a lot is, what do I start with? There's cybersecurity, there's data, there's engineering, there's all of that. And when they finally say, oh, okay, I think I want to be a developer, then there's back end, front end, there are a host of um, sub departments within sub specializations within engineering itself and development. So it's you hear so many things. Even when you say, "Oh, I want to be a front end developer," then you start hearing about JavaScript, React, Vue, Next. You start hearing all this stuff. So there's a lot of things going on, but sometimes it's easy to get swept away by trends and not ask ourselves what are companies and organizations actually using. Every organization that has a website requires a CMS to be able to update content on that website. And that is why picking up a skill as a CMS developer is very critical, right? You could build a website with React, with Next, with anything, and you still need to push content to that website, right? You would not want to go and reach out to, you might need a marketing team that needs to be able to push blog posts. You need an SEO team that needs to be able to optimize the content. All these people would ask the business for a CMS, and they will look for a CMS developer. And that is why this is still very relevant even in 2026. Now, CMSs have a low barrier to entry compared to any other tech stack. And trust me, I've done it all. I'll tell you, CMSs have one of the lowest barriers to entry into doing actual work, right? You see a lot of entry level roles. They'll ask you for experience, even though you're an entry level person. And where do you want to get the experience? But with CMSs, you can get that experience pretty fast. You could have watched a lot of tutorials, but tutorials and reality are very different. So the question to ask yourself is, what skill will take me from um, a novice and a learner to a doer and someone who has production ready skill set? And that's where CMSs come in. So what is a CMS? Because I've been saying CMS as if we all know what it is. I'm sure a lot of us might know. A CMS is a content management system. And when you hear that, there was a term that was very popular. I don't know if it's still popular now, called WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So the WYSIWYG parts got dropped after a while, and I think CMS is pretty much the established term for what I'm describing, a content management system. Now, a content management system basically, as the name implies, manages content for a website, a web app, even a mobile app, right? So that is basically what a content management system. And it's not just an interface for you to interact and push. A lot of people have the misconception that, oh, WordPress is a blog. It helps you launch a blog. No, nobody even uses blogs as much in 2026, right? WordPress is beyond that. Shopify is beyond just a place to, it has gone beyond just a blogging system. It is now a fully featured content management system. Now, a lot of the deep tech stuff that you could do still exists within the content management system ecosystem, right? You still have databases, backend logic, API and integrations, and all those things, right? Within a CMS. It's just that there has been an interface built on top of that that helps you interact and move a whole lot faster. Now, popular CMSs, we have WordPress, of course, which is like the king of them all, most popular. We have Drupal, we have Joomla. Those ones are not so popular in the world today. There's Shopify, which almost everybody knows. They are now like some new CMSs that have gained prominence in the past few years. I'm sure everybody knows Wix. I'm sure everybody knows Webflow, Squarespace. Those are like new entrants that are also, gaining a lot of popularity, especially for their ease of use. Then we also have the headless CMSs like Contentful, Strapi, and the rest of them. Now, I'm going to be focusing on WordPress, right, in this session, and why WordPress. Now, WordPress is currently, how many of you know that 43% of the web is powered by WordPress? That means out of all the websites and web applications in the world, 43% of them are based on WordPress. So that means the chances, if you look at two websites, you open a website now, you open a second one, there's a very high chance that one of the two websites you just opened, one of them is a WordPress website, right? So it powers a huge part of the web, of the internet as it is, right? You'll be surprised to find out that Facebook uses WordPress for a certain part of their website. When I found out, I was surprised, when I saw that the CMS powering their static pages was WordPress. I was shocked. I don't know if that has been changed, but 3 years ago, I was reading something about their policy, and I had a nice little tool that I used to check the technology powering a website. And I clicked on it and I saw WordPress. I was shocked. Went to the White House, yeah, White House website, WordPress, CNN, WordPress. A lot of very, very, very big sites you see. A lot of them are powered with WordPress, right? Even old school, we use WordPress a lot for a part of our systems, right? So WordPress is very, very, very entrenched in the internet of today. So it's used by governments, used by startups, used by big companies, enterprise organizations, you name it. Every company of every size every organization of every size uses WordPress. And this has caused a massive market for WordPress talent. WordPress talent is something that the world is never going to have enough of, right? And now taking it back to where we are as Nigerians, right? In Africa, where people are looking for a cheap way to launch and be on the internet, WordPress is a very low cost way of building something, right? It's the barrier to entry is very low, doesn't cost as much because there are so many tools you can use within WordPress. Now, if anyone, I'm sure the people here are developers, and I'm sure you all know the benefit of having a large community, right? When you have problems and you want to Google, well, there's ChatGPT now, but before ChatGPT, it was Stack Overflow. And a lot of the content that the agents use comes from Stack Overflow still. But you want a large community so that if you run into any problem, somebody has experienced it before. I don't think there's any tech community in the world that is as large as WordPress. And WordPress has one of the largest communities, if not the largest in the world, right? It's open source. That means it doesn't cost you anything, unlike Webflow, Wix, and all of that, that they'll say, put in your card details. You don't experience that with WordPress. There's the hosted version and there's the open source version, and you can use the open source version to do anything. Now, WordPress has a plugin library, and I was one of the people I follow in WordPress. His name is running out of my head, and he was talking about how he wanted to teach his son. His son wanted to build a website, and he was like, "Should I teach him React? Should I teach him this? Should I teach him that?" And he wrote a very long article about all the different tools he wanted to teach his son, and he ended up with WordPress. Why? Because it has such a large plugin library. Now, what is a plugin? A plugin is simple code package, a package of code that helps you extend the functionality of your WordPress website. Now, you can have a WordPress website, which is just a simple website, and within a minute, it has become an e-commerce store. Within a minute, it has become a social media network, right? Within a minute, it has become a subscription site. Within a minute, it has become anything you want it to be, because you can simply go into the plugin library and say e-commerce, and it shows you all the e-commerce plugins that extend the functionality. And with the simple click of a button, your site has become an e-commerce store. So that large plugin library is one of the core advantages of WordPress. And when you're building a website, sometimes you don't know where your website is going to evolve to. You don't know where your web application is going to evolve to. And you want to be in use a platform or a framework that if you need to add any functionality later on, you need to add a payment gateway, you need to do anything, you know that there is a large plugin library that can cater for all of that. Yeah. And the part I like the most, and I'm going to talk a bit about that later on, is WordPress teaches you very good skills that you can use later in the future, even if you want to move beyond WordPress. You're going to learn skills like databases, you learn backend engineering, you learn front-end engineering, everything you would learn in a traditional development journey, you learn it within WordPress too. Now, how do you get started with WordPress? Now, of course, you have to learn the fundamentals. You need to understand what is a theme, what is a plugin. You need to understand how it works. And I keep talking about how WordPress has a large community. Trust me, you would even get tired of the amount of tutorials there and on the internet. When I started with Treehouse. I don't know if they're still around. And I took their WordPress track and I learned everything I needed to learn within a couple of months. There's a lot of good tutorials on Udemy that I've seen, I've recommended. There are even a lot of free tutorials on YouTube that you can watch to get you started with WordPress. I can tell you that even tonight, if you take out 1 hour of your time, you can launch a WordPress website in the next 1 hour or 30 minutes. That's how fast it is to get started. Now, when you've gone past the fundamentals, you set up a basic website, you want to go beyond that, right? And that is where you now start understanding what is beneath or behind the code, right? And I always encourage people, WordPress allows you to meet it at any level you want. If you want to understand it just on the surface, you're fine. If you want to understand it deeper, you can also go deeper. Now, once you've understood WordPress on a generic level, you understand themes, you understand plugins, you understand how it works, start building projects. Let me tell you, when I first started learning, right, my first project was for my church. I didn't even expect to get paid, right? They had a horrible website. I reached out to the guy who used to do designs for them, and I said, "Why is this website like this?" And I opened the spec element and I showed him a couple of things, and I said, "Oh, this is good. Can you build something for us?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And I did it without expecting to get paid, but I got paid. And after that, the next one and the next one. I remember I did a website for one upcoming musician. I kept hoping that it would blow so that it would say, "Oh, that guy was with me from day one." But unfortunately, his career never took off. But anyways, I did his website, he told people go and stream my music on my website. It was one of the very few artists doing that back then. Right. So yeah, I did a lot of projects for free, started getting paid, 30K, 20K here, 30K there. And it was interesting because the barrier to entry was very low. And I kept on learning and learning and learning. So once you have, and one of the very important things in tech is your portfolio. So WordPress allows you to gather a portfolio very fast. So once, I had gathered that portfolio, I started putting in, for big businesses, approaching businesses, I can build your website, I can build your website. And I grew from there, right? And I kept getting feedback. And the good thing about WordPress is you can start here and you go all the way to here, and WordPress will still go with you. I remember when I first started out, I built a simple website. Then the client came and said, "Oh, by the way, I want an e-commerce store." And I was like, "Okay, we can do that." Right? I think it was a pastor or was a church or something. Then they said, "Oh, we have this NGO and we want to do a job board." And I checked, there was a plugin for that. I integrated it, boom, you have a job board. Then they said they wanted a forum where people can interact. There was a plugin for that. I put it in, they had a forum. So I kept expanding my knowledge and my skills and my offerings. And there was always something within WordPress that I could use for that. Now, mistakes to avoid when using WordPress. Now, with WordPress, They're what we call page builders, Elementor and Co. Right? You can basically go on places like ThemeForest, and you'll see so many website templates, you know, beautiful ones than the ones you can even think of coding yourself. And that's why WordPress is good. You can purchase a template for as low as $60, and you have a world-class website all of a sudden within a matter of hours, right? And a lot of people exist on that level, and they just keep on using themes, maybe making little customizations, and they never go deeper. And that's one thing I want to encourage you. It is very easy. A lot of people have wonderful careers doing that, but you should go deeper into WordPress and understand how it works. So you should start trying to build your own themes, not just to use the things you find on ThemeForest or Elementor and Co. Right? Try and build your own things. Try and build your own plugins. Right? I remember a time when I used to build e-commerce stores, and people would say, "I want to integrate Paystack and Flutterwave," and I'll just do it. Then a client came and said, "I want to integrate PayAttitude." PayAttitude was a payment gateway offered by Unified Payments. That was like 6 years ago, and I was like, "What's in that? What's PayAttitude?" I had not heard of them. Then I Googled and I reached out to them. Okay, no, they introduced me to the team, and they said, "Oh yeah, come and integrate our um, our payment solution into your your e-commerce store." Now, all the while I've been implementing payment gateways, I've been using plugins, free plugins I don't even need to bother my head about. But now I had to build my own plugin. Now, if I had avoided understanding how plugins are built and I've just been using them, I won't have been able to do it. So I was like, okay, give me your API documentation. I went to, and because WordPress is open source, I just downloaded the Paystack plugin that was free for everyone. I looked at how they built it, and following their logic, I was able to build my own plugin that connected to PayAttitude, and um, I was able to do that for that project. So try to understand what is powering WordPress, right? And another thing is, because WordPress has such a huge community and there are like a lot of code snippets for anything you want to do, especially now that there's AI, people just copy and paste the code and check. If they work, if they work, and they'll just move on, right? So don't just copy and paste. Try and check and understand, what does this code mean? It's been a good practice not to introduce problems into your project, right? Then another thing is, people ignore performance, and they ignore security. They just want to get a website out there. They just want to get a web app out there. They just want to get an e-commerce store out there. No, don't do that. Try and understand, how can I optimize this stuff? How can I make it better? How do I make sure it's secure? Those are the ways you would start learning deeper and deeper. Remember, CMS is the reward depth, not shortcuts. You can coast on shortcuts, but you might meet a project eventually that requires depth. And that is where the problems might start to show. So another great thing I love about WordPress is that your skills transfer anywhere, right? Within WordPress, you need to understand how HTML, CSS, JavaScript works, right? Because the WordPress themes are built with that, right? You need to understand backend logic. The plugins are built with PHP, and there's a database that you have to interact with, right? So if you want to go deeper and understand the code, even outside of WordPress, you can still use those same skills. You understand? Things like debugging production issues, right? Things about learning how hosting works. I didn't know anything about how hosting worked till I started using WordPress. Then I needed to host it. Then I'll hear, oh, the website is down or the SSL has expired. Then I had to start interacting with all those things. And I learned so much about cloud that I even went deeper and started learning how to spin up my own VPS and all of that. So you can actually go deeper into any of these parts. You'll learn performance optimization, you'll learn security basics. Let me tell you something. Uh, because WordPress is so popular, there are a lot of attacks on WordPress websites. So you will learn security by force. First time my site got taken down, a site that I built. We just woke up one morning and one guy posted something and he said, contact me to pay a ransom to get your site back. And I had to learn security by myself. I had to learn it. I had to go know how to sanitize files, know how to, do things like, oh, what is DDoS? How did this guy break into the stuff? I had to look into the database. Oh, what's this? So you would have to learn the basics of security when using WordPress, right? Then also another good thing is you learn soft skills like communication. Um, that is how it went for me anyways, because I started building websites for people and I had to engage them, I had to communicate and all of that. So I learned that too. So these skills, they move with you anywhere you go. That's one of the good things about WordPress. So yeah, talking about the paths, you can start as a CMS developer and become a front-end engineer. I know people who started as with WordPress and now they're like full-time React, JavaScript engineers. You can start with CMS and still moving and specialize as a backend engineer, especially those who like building plugins. Most of my guys were plugging, me, I'm more of a front end guy. Most of my guys were plugin developers back then. They started using languages like Go and Python and all of that. You can be a full stack engineer, which is something like what I do, right? You can become a product manager, you can become an SEO specialist. Fun fact, when it comes to SEO, WordPress is still one of the best platforms. Like when you see a website built on WordPress versus built with React or any other thing, the chances that WordPress website will get discovered by search engines is way higher. Why? Because there's so many problems that make SEO better on WordPress. Like with a click of a button, you can install your Google Analytics. There's something called Google Sitekit built by Google that you can easily integrate into WordPress. There are SEO plugins that basically help you do everything that you need for SEO. They will literally be telling you, do this, do this, do this. So you will learn a lot about SEO if you're interested in, if you go into WordPress, and you can even become an SEO specialist. Everything I learned about SEO, and I've taken on SEO projects I learned from WordPress, right? And digital marketing. A lot of the blogs you saw back then, blogs are not as popular now, but a lot of those blogs, they came from WordPress. They started with WordPress, and you now learn about integrating Google AdWords and all of that. And you can start a digital marketing career all from starting as a CMS developer or WordPress developer specifically. So CMSs are not the end, right? You don't have to think that, oh, because I'm learning WordPress, I'm not moving fast, right? I'm not moving with the trend. I'm not expanding, right? They are just the beginning. They are like an entry point. And that's why I titled this Jumpstarting Your Career with WordPress, right? It is a start, not the end. Yeah. So, yeah, my final message is well, before my final message, I know everybody's going to talk about is it still necessary to learn WordPress and to use WordPress in 2026 when you can go on Replit or you can use Claude to spin up a website? To be honest, I experimented with that this year. A friend of mine reached out to me. He moved to the UK and he said, "Oh, I need to build a new website for this market. But if man help me." I'm like, "No, I'm busy. Oh, I don't have time for this." So I was like, there's Replit now. So I just went on Replit and I built a website for him. And I said, guy, take a look at this. Of course, I made some of my edits and all of that. And when he looked at it, it was like, okay, yeah, so I want to change this, I want to change this, I want to change this. And I was like, haha, this is where WordPress is important. Because WordPress will give you a CMS, like an interface for them to have been able to make all for him to have been able to make all these edits myself and himself. So I started looking at somebody should have started thinking about how to extend sites built by agents into WordPress. And lo and behold, there are. I stumbled upon wpconvert.ai, and all I needed to do was export my site from Replit, put it in there, and it converted it into a WordPress website for me easily. Now, of course, I had to make some changes. I had to tweak some things because I'm also a WordPress developer. I knew what to change and what to leave. So yeah. So WordPress is also really evolving with AI. A lot of the tools and page builders on WordPress have AI features now. right? You don't even need to think about the content you want on your website. If you're using Elementor, you can tell it to help you generate content. There are a lot of AI features within WordPress. So yes, WordPress is modern. It's not just this old technology, right? So yeah, now my final message. There's something else I wanted to touch on. I can't remember now. So maybe it's come up in the Q&A part. So my final message is WordPress, CMSs in general, WordPress inclusive, they are not lesser tech. You don't think about them as, oh, that's small thing. Let me tell you, I've built mobile apps on top of WordPress. Yeah, I've built mobile apps. Well, back then I used to use Ionic, built React Native, Ionic mobile apps with WordPress as my backend. So basically, I had built an e-commerce store, and the company came and said, we want to launch a mobile app. And it was an e-commerce store based on WordPress. And I'd been picking up, mobile development skills along the way. And I said, come, this should be possible now. WordPress has a REST API. So I built a mobile app connected to the REST API of the e-commerce that I built with WordPress. And I launched their mobile app. So don't think about CMSs as lesser tech, right? You can extend it as much as you want to. Now, of course, sometimes a platform matures and grows beyond the constraints of a CMS. I've also had those situations where the project has grown to a certain point where they start having so many custom requests. And I'm like, okay, I think at this point we should move out of WordPress. That happens, but not in rare cases does to that happens in very rare cases. Most of the time, WordPress will get you most of the way. The project I know I had to move out of WordPress, they had done, I can throw around figures, I'm not going to mention the business, but they had done over R1 billion in revenue. They had, I think, more than 50,000 users on their WordPress installation. They had done billions in revenue, billion naira, China dollars, right? They had done a lot in revenue and they needed to keep optimizing and customizing and doing this. Oh, we want this, we want to build this mobile apps, connect to this. So at the point, I just said, okay, you know what? Let's move this out of WordPress. Your requests are becoming too custom and I need to optimize so many parts. So, but imagine for the first 5 years of the life cycle of that business, WordPress served them flawlessly, right? So another thing I want to implore you guys to do is start with where real work exists. There's a lot of noise out there right now, but look at the real work that is out there to be done. Everybody needs a website. Everybody needs an e-commerce store. That is real work. So start where the real work exists and grow skills that can get you working fast, right? Also, go by solving real problems, right? Real problems, just like what I had said, they're real problems to be solved, and CMSs can get you there faster. And lastly, as a perfectionist, I'm telling you, momentum beats perfection. Trust me. Moving fast is very, very important, especially in the world of tech as it is. Saying, oh, I want to be a full stack developer, so I want to learn JavaScript, I want to learn Node.js, I want to learn Express, I want to learn my front end, JavaScript, React, Next.js, and I want to be able to build an application, I'll build the front end, I'll build the back end. That is good. But imagine the timeline to take you to achieve that, right? You could be doing I did all of that. I learned a lot of stuff. But while I was learning all that, I had practical skills that could get me employed, that could get me freelancing right then and there. Especially if you want to be a freelancer, understanding CMSs and understanding WordPress is non-negotiable for you, right? So you could have your long-term plans for all the things you want to learn. You want to become an AI engineer, you want to do whatever you want to do. But right now, there's this low-hanging fruits that you can start with that can help you jumpstart your career. And I want to encourage you guys to do that. Yes. So come to the end of my session. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much for listening. And I'll be taking questions now.
Thank you so much, Gbolade, for an
Yeah.
insightful and eye-opening session. I really enjoyed myself. I think we already have a few questions in the Q&A, but if anyone would like to raise their hand. I think we can take one person, right, to if they want to raise their hand to speak. But aside that, we have two questions in the Q&A section, and you can all pump your questions into that so that he can take it sequentially. So Emmanuel is saying that you spoke about an AI starting with W also. I don't know if you remember mentioning that. Can you
Okay,
talk about
that's WP Converts, wpconverts.ai. It's a
okay,
platform for converting your
I'm spelling it. So we,
um okay, let me put it in the chat.
yeah.
I hope I'm getting it right. Yeah, I've put it wpconverts.ai.
Okay. All right. You wanted to
Yes.
talk more on it. I think you can go ahead.
Oh, okay, so WP Convert basically helps you convert your static built website into WordPress, right? So if you build a website with Replit and you want, or Claude or whatever, and you want to convert it into a WordPress website, WP Convert helps you do that seamlessly. That's basically what it does. So it helps you move faster. It basically exists to convert sites built in Replit and Claude and all these other agents into WordPress websites. Okay, resources. Oh, sorry, is there any other question before that one?
The next question, the person wants to get straight into how to make the money. So Ray is asking, how do we get clients?
That's another a session for another day. But like I told you, when I started out, I reached out to people in my circle. Um, I built a website for my church. I remember I was a copper then, and I built a website for the school I was teaching in. Um, So you just reach out to people within your community. The thing is, nobody's going to give you money if you don't have proof that you can do the work. So you might have to do some things for free in the beginning. Then now the good thing is there are so many ways. Back then, social media wasn't this entrenched, right? You can go on social media and try and advertise your skills. You can go on platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, and Co. And even though they are crazy competitive these days, where you can try and advertise yourself on those kind of platforms. So yeah, there's so many ways you can, but those are a few tips I'll give you for that.
Okay, I think now we can go back to the comment section. While I would prefer everybody to be in the Q&A section, but we have a few questions here and I don't want us to miss this. Yannick
Okay.
asked for resources. So is there any resource that you can recommend?
Uh, and it's been a while I actually um, went through a beginner course. All I would say is go on Udemy. I'm not sure the exact one, but you can go on Udemy, search for WordPress, and look for the highly rated courses on Udemy, right? And just you can take one of the courses on Udemy, and you can also check on YouTube. And if you just do a bit of Googling, best WordPress courses to take in 2026, I'm sure you'll see a lot. The teachers I learned with, I don't know what they are doing now. Zach Gordon was the person I watched all these tutorials. And fun fact, he held a conference, a global conference in the US, and I learned from him and he invited me to speak. So that was like one of the highlights of my career as a WordPress developer, speaking at the conference of the person I learned from. So I don't know if Zach Gordon still teaches, but you can search. I'm sure you'll see a lot of resources online for WordPress. Udemy is a good place.
So Abraham is asking the ideal price one can realistically charge for a WordPress website, ranging from corporates to e-commerce.
It depends. It depends on so many things, right? The price I'll charge is not the price you'll charge. Experience matters, branding matters, the scope of the project matters. If someone comes to me and says, I want to build a one-page website, that's very, very different from I want to build an e-commerce store. right? Oh, I want to implement one payment gateway, and someone says, oh, I want to implement three payment gateways, right? I worked on a project for a client in Canada, and they wanted to implement a payment gateway I'd never heard about, and I checked, and there was no plugin for it. I had to build a custom plugin. So what do? You charge a whole lot of money because it's a whole lot more work. So it depends. It's a very, very wide range. And I can't tell you what my minimum is because if you try and use that as your minimum, that might not work for you. So I'll just say start with based on your level of experience and your level of skill, find an amount that works for you. Let me just throw a figure out there. It depends. You can start from maybe 300K, right? That is not my minimum, but maybe that's a good place to start from there. We can keep going upward from there.
Okay, so the next question here is, with the evolution of AI, how do you reconcile WordPress development learning and AI in our processes as a junior developer?
Okay, yeah. So like I've told you, that's something I've had to reckon with myself. You can spin up a website pretty fast with any AI agent now, but sometimes there are still um, things you need to, even when using these AI agents, right? It's doing regular React for you. You might still want to go in and change some things yourself. So with WordPress specifically, I had mentioned that I last month I built a site with Replit, and I went to wp-convert.ai and converted it into a WordPress website. So yeah, there are AI tools within WordPress. Now there's a serious movement right now, um, currently focused on integrating AI into WordPress. And WordPress has been launching a lot of things, but they're all still under the wraps. None of them are public yet. But for example, if you're using a page builder like Elementor, Elementor is packed with a lot of AI tools now, right? It can help you generate content. It can help you generate layouts on the fly. It can help you optimize your images. For SEO tools, there is AI SEO, AIO SEO that basically uses AI to help you do the entire SEO of the website. So there are a lot of AI tools within WordPress. Trust me, when you get started and you start exploring, you'll find a plethora of AI tools within WordPress.
I actually like the fact that people are asking questions, and it makes me understand that at least we're listening and we're having interest in exactly how best to go about utilizing WordPress. So the next question here is, what security plugins have you worked with over the years that best prevent break-ins?
Okay, WordFence is one of my favorites. I use WordFence literally on any project I work on. Um, there are other things like you want to make sure you have capture on. You can probably use Akismet for um, things like spam prevention. So there are a number of them, but WordFence is like pretty much one of the best. There's also all-in-one security, I think, all-in-one security for WordPress or something like that. So there are a number of them, but WordFence is a very good point to start. Never launch a project without WordFence and reCAPTCHA because you get a lot of spam. Once you have reCAPTCHA, you have WordFence. That's a good starting point.
And someone is asking that you also talk about security for CMS.
And that's what I just finished talking about, right? So WordFence is a good one for WordPress.
Yeah.
So the security is the same across board, even if it's a WordPress website. You want to uh, protect against brute force, you want to protect against DDoS, you want to protect against SQL injection, all those things. WordPress will handle most of that for you, right? You want to protect against spam, the reCAPTCHA will handle that for you. There are lots of reCAPTCHA plugins for WordPress that you can use, right? That will just pop up on you easily set up a reCAPTCHA on your website. So Those two are like the basics ones you should start with.
Okay. So I have a double question from Ray. So the first
Okay.
question is, what's the best page builder? And do you have an agency website?
Best page builder right now. I used to love WP Bakery, but Elementor has done so much that I would say Elementor by far is the best page builder right now, the most popular, and I'll pretty much say the best right now, Elementor. Do I have a personal agency website? Yes, I do. I'm gonna put it in the chat in case you want to check that out. Yes. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a few more, but because some people are dropping in the comment section and Q&A, I will
Who are
just try to
dropping Q&A? Okay.
yeah, I'll just try to organize it as much as
Oh,
possible.
okay.
I have Emmanuel at Gbola in the Q&A section saying, I'm currently integrating Paystack as a payment option for an NGO to aid donation locally and internationally. What do you suggest I do to secure the site against hackers aside the normal security tools?
Okay, so if you're using Paystack's plugin, number one, make sure you download the plugin from Paystack, right? So once you downloaded the actual Paystack plugin, I think you're pretty much secure. So when a payment is initiated, it is handled by Paystack, not by your website. So, or else if the hackers can hack Paystack, you yourself, you don't have a problem. You are just integrating Paystack into your website. So when they click to launch the payment gateway, Paystack takes over, right? So there's really not much you can do outside that. Paystack is basically the one handling the transaction, so you don't have to be bothered about what you need to do for security. But just like I had mentioned, do the regular stuff. Do your DDoS protection. If you can put your domain on Cloudflare for DDoS protection, your brute force protection with WordFence, your spam protection, with what's it called, reCAPTCHA. Make sure you're using a very good plugin for your forms, like Contact Form 7, that already takes care of SQL injection for you. Yeah. And make sure you are hosting. Please post on a very, very good site, good post. I'm sorry to say this. I know I'm meant to be a patriotic person. Don't host on Nigerian hosting companies. I've been there, done that. Don't do it. Save yourself a lot of drama. Look for a very good hosting company based in the US. I don't like UK hosting companies to their customer service is horrible. Look for a very good hosting company based in the US. You can do Kingstar, you can do Cloudways, you can do hosting.com, you can do a Namecheap. I think those four are like solid ones. I'm not going to mention any Nigerian brands, but we all know them. Avoid them. Avoid them. Yeah.
I have a question here that says, what's your take on paying for premium plans in certain plugins over free version?
Well, it depends on what you need, right? And because of the nature of WordPress, it's a it's a GPL license. So most plugins offer a free version, then they tack on some features for the paid version. There's so many plugins that use the paid versions of, right? For example, all-in-one WP migration, I have the paid version, right? Um, Elementor, I always use Elementor Pro. So there are some plugins you want to use the paid version because they actually help give you a lot of features that you need. Now, don't quote me, but there's something called GPL Vault. Um, they are like GPL websites. They are good for when you want to experiment, right? They give you access to literally almost all the premium plugins. They're good for when you want to experiment, but please and please, when you're going to production on a website for any organization, don't use all those don't use those things. Purchase. If you're building a website for clients, tell them I'm going to use Elementor Pro, it's $59. I'm going to use this, it is so there are plugins I've purchased that are $400. I've purchased paid membership pro, $400. I paid for it, right? I purchased Docan, 1,000 and something dollars. Yeah, I told the person I was going to build for this plugin that I need to use to build your multi-vendor e-commerce site. You can pay a lifetime access fee of $1,200, and they paid, right? So you can use the free version to play around, but when you want to go to production, if you realize that you need the features that they have, ask the organization to pay for the paid version. It saves you a lot of headache.
So I think your answer just covers the next question I wanted to raise up, which is
Okay.
what's your take on using cracked themes and plugins
Don't do it.
to cut costs? Yeah.
Don't do it. You cut the cost, but it's to cut your blood pressure. Okay, you can't cut it, it will increase your blood pressure. So don't do it. You most likely, once you launch that website, you wake up one morning and you see a half-ass banner on it, right? Or you see that they've hijacked the mailing list of your mailing list of your website, and they started sending all sorts of unprintable things to your clients. It's not just worth it. Don't do. You can experiment with them locally. Even that I won't advise, because they can introduce viruses into your website, into your local machine. So it's not just worth it, right? There's a free version you can play around with. And if you know you need the premium one, just go ahead and buy the premium one. Or worst case scenario, because I don't want to talk from a privileged point of view, um, you can use GPL Vault or safe GPL sites at the worst case scenario, use a GPL site to get the theme and the theme or the plugin that you need. GPL Vaults, GPL Club, and all the other GPL sites.
Okay, so that's worst case scenario, right? But
Worst
right.
case scenario. And don't use that in production.
Okay.
Don't use that on a live site. Just experiment with them. So sorry,
Okay.
let me give you a scenario. I had a client who wanted to launch a POS store and a POS system, right? They already had a website, they opened their store for the first time, and they needed a POS system. And they said, "Oh, can you build a POS system for us?" And I was like, "Yes." There's this wonderful tool called WordPress that I can easily install a plugin that gives a barcode generator and has a POS interface, and they had bought their POS machines and all of that. Now, the plugin was we needed two plugins that were going to be $500. And I'm not going to collect $500 from someone to buy a plugin, only for me to discover that the plugin doesn't work very well. So what did I do? I used GPL plugins to test. I installed it. I played around with it. I did the demo. They were like, this works perfectly. We went to their store. They scanned the product. It was a pharmacy. We were able to scan all their products and all of that. It worked seamlessly. Then I said, okay. So I'd even told them, "Look, this is going to cost XYZ, but wait, I'm going to use this to test out and demo it." And they said it worked fine. Then they paid the $500. So in that kind of scenario, you can use them to play around and test. And sometimes if I want to build a plugin myself, I can use it to just understand how they built their own plugin. Yeah, so that's the extent to which I use them.
Okay. So what's your recommendation for free and premium themes? Like where would you recommend people to go to?
Premium themes, ThemeForest. I go to ThemeForest for all my premium themes. I think these days I don't use themes as much. I build my themes myself most of the time. Or I use Elementor to build my layouts myself most of the time. But I think I stopped using themes like 2 years ago because most of the clients I work with, they they pay good money and they have very specific requirements for their design. So we want to do a very custom design for them. So we want to build out the interface and all of that. So if you're building out a custom interface, like you've done the user interface on Figma and shown to them, you can't, it doesn't make sense to then start buying a theme, then trying to fit it to the design you've shown your client. So in that case, you can just build from scratch. You can do that within WordPress too. So yeah, that is one thing you could evolve to. But if you want to buy a thing, there are so many good things on ThinkForest. And ThinkForest also does virus scanning, right, on those themes. And if for whatever reason you purchase a theme that introduces viruses, you can report. I think I've done that before. And they blocked that guy, took down all these products on their platform. So they are very, very strict. So you won't go and buy a thing that will compromise the security of your site. And there's also after sales support and all of that. Sometimes you might run into a problem with a thing. You're trying to do something it doesn't. So if you go and ThinkForest, they'll have a chat where you can chat and they can offer support for you. I think after you purchase, there's like 6 months of support. So yeah, ThinkForest is a very good place that I patronize all the time.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to take two more questions and that's it because we are short of time. So someone is saying that they recently worked with an organization that was expecting that he already has paid plugins as a developer and that they can use those plugins for any paid job. He thought it was a reasonable, he thought it was reasonable, he or she thought it was reasonable, even though they've never heard of it before. What is your take on this?
I am not understanding.
So
So,
do,
can you come again, please?
okay, let me come again. Let me just read it exactly how it was written.
Okay.
I recently worked with an organization that was expecting that I already have paid plugins as a developer that I can use for any job. And I thought
Hmm.
it was reasonable, even though I've never heard of this before. What's your take on this?
They are not serious, sorry to say. Even when you purchase a plugin, they are usually restricted to one website. So I've bought Elementor Pro more times than I can count because it's one license per site. Now, the thing is, you can use it, you've downloaded the plugin, you can use it on as many places as possible. But when there's an update, what do? You now have to start deactivating the license on the client's website to use it across. So tell them to pay for the license, bill it as part of your cost, you understand? So if you're going to use some themes come with Elementor Pro already. So if you're buying a theme that comes bundled with Elementor Pro, that's fine. But the problem is that after a while, you need to update and you can't update. So always charge your clients for the plugins you need. You don't want to, there are some clients you build something for and they will change the password, right? So you can't go back and take that license again when they've changed the password to their admin dashboard. So even if you have the file, you can use it to build. Like I gave the example recently where I used GPL Vault to get some plugins. But when you want to go live, tell them you have to pay for this. Bill it as part of their this. If they don't want to, just so that you can go ahead with the job, you tell them the consequence. I'll do this, but note that you won't get updates. That's if you have the plugin files. Just tell them, note you won't get updates because there's no way to update this. And if they're fine with that, then that's okay. So if their site goes down tomorrow because it was hacked, we just tell them that your plugins were not updated. That is why that happened. So yeah.
All right, so the final question, but before I take the final question, um, do you mind dropping the link to GBL? That's the one you mentioned earlier in the chat section.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the final question is, I installed a theme. The theme is called Clio, and some plugins attached with it, right? I think mid last year, the developer retrieved support and patch updates for the theme, which caused the website to break. I had a lot of trouble with this. So what do you suggest I do to be ready for situations like this?
To be honest, unfortunately, situations like this have happened. They've happened to me in the past. right? And that is why I said it's a good idea to go beyond just the basics and actually try and understand how WordPress works. There are times when there's a problem on the plugin, there's a security issue, or there's something that is making the site break. For example, you upgrade your PHP and that plugin is not compatible. That happens. And you might have to go in by yourself and fix the problem pending when they release an update. I've used a theme for a website and I went back to ThemeForest to try and complain to the theme developer that there was a problem. And I realized that ThemeForest had already taken that theme down. I think some people had complained about it and I was stuck. I paid money for it already. So those happen, but they are not common, right? And I think when you purchase themes on ThemeForest, especially if you're a beginner, go for the ones that you see that they release updates for regularly. They have a lot of ratings, very good ratings. One thing I always do is I check their support page. I look at people who have posted comments and how fast they responded. If they don't respond the same day, I don't buy their plugin, no matter how beautiful it is, right? So I look at someone posted this thing 3 days ago, response came 3 days ago. That's a good one. You see that they respond almost immediately to comments. So you can see a very beautiful this thing. You check the ratings. 3 people have rated it 5 star. That's not good enough. If a thing doesn't have 4.4 stars and above, and that 4.4 stars is less than 100 people, I'm not buying it. I don't care how beautiful it is. But I want my peace of mind. So unfortunately, those kind of things will always happen. So what you can do now is you could try to rebuild the website. You could try to fix the things that need to be fixed yourself if you can, right? Unfortunately, that's what you have to do. You have to try and fix it yourself.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We want to know if you're open to mentorship.
Yeah, I'm very open to mentorship. I can drop my email. You can reach me at hi@gbolade.me. I've dropped this in the chat. I'm never on LinkedIn. I've said you should reach out to me on LinkedIn. You think I'm ghosting you or airing you. I'm not on LinkedIn. Yeah, so send me an email. That's probably the best way to reach me. But also drop my number. Please don't spam me. Yes, but you can reach out to me on WhatsApp too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much once again. And thank you to everybody else, to everybody that attended this session. It was really interactive. I loved how the questions were flowing in, and I'm grateful to each and every one of you. But before we leave, I know it's already 3 minutes past the time. Before we leave, I want to let everyone on here know that we have a gift from you, for you from Old School, right? And this Valentine, we want to give you a head start. So if you're not part of Old School and you want to actually go deep into learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, like Gbolade mentioned, if you've already started with WordPress, if you've not started with WordPress and you want to learn all of this, you can use the code START26 on your application and you get 20% off your application fee. And if you're already a member of Old School, I'm sure you don't need this, but you can also use your code on your portal. So if you log into your portal, you go to the earn section, you see your code. So you can use this as a gift to your friends and family if they want to be a part of Old School to get 20% off the application fee. And thank you so much once again. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye, everyone.